Welcome back, Portugal Junkies.
Hello there.
What's up? We missed you. It's been a whole week.
What have you been doing?
We've been doing a lot.
We have, yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember, if you haven't heard on our prior podcast, but we have made a big decision and we are leaving Porto for our next stop in this adventure
journey.
And we're moving to Tavira, which is a little fishing village. I say little.
I was going to say, it's
we
not
say
so
it every
little,
time,
yeah.
but it's not. It's like, what, 25,000 people?
Something like that.
It's not like tiny.
No.
But we are moving to Tavira, and it is so dreamy, and we are kind of in this spot right now where
I want to hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Get there, but I need to do things here. I want to get there now, but I really need to do things here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even the need. It's like, we want to enjoy these last few weeks of Porto in a way that is very intentional.
Yes.
While at the same time we're super excited and would literally move tomorrow if we could. So it's kind of a weird in between right now because of that, and I'm trying to like soak up Porto as much as I can, and at the same time be planning in my head about our new place. And what it's going to be like there.
I mean, the big benefit is moving down there. We're not taking a lot, other than whatever we can strap to our backs, basically.
Yeah, sure.
And
we've gotten really good at that. I'll tell you.
I mean, talk about downsides.
I really believe that. Well, and I'll say I think it's very egocentric for me to be like, most people will do that when they move abroad, because I know some people who don't. Like, we see on the forums all of the time where people are like, how do I get my car here? How do I move all my furniture? And I'm sitting there going,
fine.
Sell that shit.
If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Maybe you've bought a house and it's vacant, and
you're
there's a reason behind doing that.
I know, and like nostalgic things, but we didn't do that. We took a very different path.
We didn't have very many things that were nostalgic, other than the things we could strap to our back.
Yeah, and the things that were nostalgic, they're in a very special place at home.
Yeah, they are.
But it's funny because you say we're moving to an apartment that's about the same size, which is great.
Yeah.
But it gives us so much more flexibility with the dog, which we're going to talk about today as part 2 of logistically getting your pet to Portugal as a follow-up to our last podcast.
Yep.
But yeah, we are very much like trying to take advantage of the last few weeks here in Porto and do some things that we haven't done.
That we were always talking about, even before we got here or after we got here.
It's funny. It's funny how you can be here for like, we've been here for like 9 months.
Yeah.
9 months. Because we moved here December 1st. And now granted, the first 2 months were completely rained out, so we really couldn't do as much as we might have thought we could. But I don't know. It just seems like there are so many things. There's like an urgency now of like, but we haven't done that yet, and we can't leave without doing this, and we want to do that.
We've got pretty much every Friday between now and then packed out between where we're going, what we're doing, what we're seeing.
It's our leaving Porto bucket list.
Yes.
And if you haven't checked us out on TikTok, I'm starting that series. I started it last week, but I'm excited because we're going to like intentionally do some things that we might not have gotten to if it not for, leaving and moving and knowing that there's a limited amount of time left here as individuals who live here. And I'm sure we will be back to visit.
Yeah, I'm certain.
I love this city.
I'm certain of that. Well, that was the reason we came. Was this city after all the ones we saw, but Anyway, so tune in on TikTok if you have not for our leaving Porto bucket list series that we're going to be outlining, and it's going to be fun. But what we're going to talk about today, we're going to follow up our podcast from last week, which was all about getting your pet to Portugal and really talking about like the requirements, like what do you have to actually do on US soil and what documentation do you have to have in your hand before you get here. And then I thought, well, there's a whole other piece to this, which is massive. What
everybody is probably most concerned about is logistically, how do you get your pet
A to Z.
From there to here. A to Z. A to B. And so we thought we would talk about that today, but also tell our story about getting our little girl, Charlotte, here. So if you're not aware, she runs this house. Like she is the queen of the queendom.
Yeah, just in case you can't see it.
I didn't even realize that you had that shirt on today.
I'm wearing a t-shirt that was bought for me. It says best Boston Terrier dad ever.
Yes.
It's really cool.
And you are. So she's a 15-pound Boston. So she's tiny for her breed in the first place. She was the runt of her litter. And she's just more like tall and lean and smaller than a normal kind of short, stout Boston that you usually see.
Yep.
And she's 8. She just turned 8 a couple of weeks ago, August 4th. And so I said in the prior podcast, like, if this didn't work out, if she wasn't able to, we weren't able to figure out our way around this hurdle of logistics and documentation and knowing that we could get her here safely and in the way that we felt comfortable with, I mean, I was ready to scrap the plan. That's how important she is, and I would assume most people think about their pets as family.
Just an integral part of the family.
Yeah. No. So it would have just naturally altered our plans. Yeah. And it is the reason why we went back and forth so long, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the biggest thing. We couldn't get our arms around all of the logistics.
How can we, I mean, is the physical, how do you do what you need to do?
Yeah.
Which I think, we that's the point of this one.
Yeah. Especially talking about your options.
So.
Right, and so we're gonna tell our version of our story of how we got her here, and it's not gonna apply to every person out there because of breed or size or your comfort level of these options. And so we're just gonna kind of put out all of your options and give you some resources so that you can kind of think through that for yourself. We're open to any questions if you need follow up
I really
after
hope
the
that
podcast.
it generates more questions specific to what you need.
So first of all, the first option, and the only option that I felt comfortable with, honestly, and Mark, was getting her here via a plane in the cabin with us.
Yep.
And here's what we ran into with this, and this is what you might run into as well. She's a snub-nosed breed.
Mm-hmm.
And if she was a typical Boston size, stout and heavy and more... might not have made the weight limit or whatever, which I'll come back to the weight limit because that's iffy by airline. She might not have ever been able to be in the cabin with us, number one, but she also might not have been able to even go in cargo because of the snub-nosed breed issue. So there's some airlines...
Pretty much all airlines now
that are not comfortable...
that will not fly with a snub nose in cargo hold.
Right. And they're just worried about issues with breathing, being in the cargo, all that other stuff.
I mean, despite the fact that the cargo hold is pressurized, there is you've got to have your dog in a kennel of appropriate size. The area of the cargo hold is designated for live animals, so it's away from anything else. So, I'm not saying it's not viable to transport a animal in the hold because it clearly is.
It's just certain breeds.
But her breed type prohibits it.
And this was just our experience. So we're just talking about our experience. But because she's small and because she's only 15 pounds and because she fit in this carrier size that they regulate and she could fit under the seat, she came with us from the US to Portugal in the cabin with us. And so she was with us every second of the flight, which
turned out to be many seconds.
Was
a
whole nother story for another time because we got diverted because of a medical issue. Not us, but somebody on the plane had an issue and we had to basically go back to Canada for a while. Anyway, it was not the easiest of flights.
Nope.
But that's not across the board. It just was our experience.
Right.
And regardless of all of that, she was awesome. So I say she, I mean Charlotte, our little girl. So anyway, pet in cabin was our number one and kind of only, we were only willing to do that. Just that, and that's our personal opinion. it was really hard for me to think about her being in the cargo, but she couldn't even go in the cargo, so it wasn't even an option for us.
Right.
So when you're thinking about bringing your pet in cabin, what are the things that you have to meet? What are the requirements?
Got to be depending on which airline you're going with.
Yeah.
The actual carrier size for your animal. In this case, we're just really talking about dogs rather than cats, but specifically, you can only travel one person with one dog. So
one
again, you've got
person
limitation.
per pet. Yeah.
One per one. So you've got some limitations in that if you've got a bigger amount of
family.
furries.
Furries.
They have to be able to apparently stand, turn around, do circus tricks all while in their carrier. And this is.
Can you hear the sarcasm?
Yeah, it really is. This is one of the things that really got me, is that they put all of these expectations on your dog in an environment that is completely alien to them, while in a carrier which they probably don't often, if ever, go into, and then expect them to do like circus tricks.
But here's the thing. This is what is in the written. If you go to, let's just say, United and Delta were the two airlines that we found were okay with in-cabin pets from U.S. to Lisbon.
Yes.
Or to Portugal.
Yeah.
Those were the two that I'll mention because I didn't do research any further on those. So I think the disclaimer here is start there, do your research, otherwise with other carriers depending on where you are. But they both basically had the same requirements, both of them.
Yeah.
It was certain exclusions of certain breeds. It was exclusions of certain, like, if it was over a certain size, the carrier, the dog or cat had to be in the carrier and be comfortable. But in the written print, it's like the dog needs to be able to stand up in the carrier, turn around and sit down comfortably.
Without touching the sides.
You try to get a cat to do that.
Right.
So
this is my sarcasm part of it, because it's rules for rules' sake, but there is.
They never asked you to do it.
No, they never asked for it. I highly doubt that they do, unless somebody's being a complete job's worth.
Job's worth?
Yeah, it's more than my job is worth to not do something. So if you're a job's worth,
got it.
So
kind of like a TSA person in the US.
Kind of like a TSA for sure.
By the way, TSA people in other countries don't act like the TSA people in the US.
No.
Okay, move along.
Yes, please. So, yeah, I mean, again, it worked for us with her being in the cabin because she fit these requirements.
Yes.
They didn't ask her to do all the
tricks.
The tricks
Thank
that
God.
they say they do, and it was the one thing we were stood in front of the counter.
Checking
and this
her
is
in,
in
you mean?
Newark, and in Newark they have a specific check-in counter for pets away from the general general check-ins. So that's really nice. It's a lot quieter. It's nice and big and open. It's really good. And she was a dream. She asked a few questions. We gave her all the paperwork, which you can cover in a second, which isn't that much, but again, you've got it available. You hand it over, and you just breathe a real heavy sigh of
when
relief
they hand you the ticket on your bag.
Green ticket, and they attach it to your carrier, and it's
you
like
can move on.
Off you go. It's like right.
It was the best feeling.
And it was a case of just keep walking, just keep walking. They're not going to come after us. It's not like a movie.
It's true, because we had gone down the rabbit hole 100 times of.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we're flying out and we live in Charlotte, we went to Newark because we had really done our research, and there's a lot of people there who say that there is not a problem in the world getting a pet through here unless you are really trying to push the limits of what their regulations are. But we had a great experience there, but it was not for all of the nervousness of. I mean, I just literally, I was more anxious than I have ever been traveling, hands down. So I want to say that to anybody who's watching and going,
or
listening, who is, really struggling with this piece of, because it's so important to you and your family, and then going down the rabbit hole and catastrophizing, what if.
Right.
I'm not going to say it's never going to happen that you get this really rogue, gate agent or something who gives you a problem.
I think by and large they want to accommodate where they can, unless it is blatantly obvious
that you're trying
to take the piss.
Yes. So, pet in cabin is really the first option if your pet fits the breed, the size, all the guidelines. I will say, and I said I would come back to this, some people will reference a weight limit and some airlines don't. So when we first started our research, it might have been other resources and not the direct airlines that we were like, oh, it has to be, 7, 8, 10 kilos or something. So it's like, there was a number somewhere that stuck in our brain.
I thought it was 16 pounds.
Right. But they've never weighed her, and on the airline websites, they never reference that either. Because essentially, if the dog fits under the seat, what does it matter how much they weigh? In the logic for me, now again, I know that doesn't always apply, but so again, check airlines. I would start with Delta and United because we've had experience with United only, so I just know that Delta is very similar in terms of what they've written in terms of their guidelines for this. And also, we were on the East Coast trying to get to Portugal, so it made sense. There were certain hubs that were very close to each other, so we were trying to outline backup plans and all that other stuff.
Yes, yeah.
But that's, and again, once you arrive, and this is, again, we'll come back to other options, but once we arrived in Lisbon, we went to baggage claim. There is a vet right there, a vet office right there at baggage claim. We presented, our 3 documents that we went over in the prior podcast, which is the health certificate, the rabies certification, and the microchip certification. But all of that should already be emailed to the vet, so you might have to produce. I would have a physical copy. Sure. In a folder, like a physical piece of paper, but you should have also already emailed this stuff over to the vet because they would be expecting you, right? We had the best experience at that vet. She was all smiles. She was like, typical
really
furry pet lover. I mean, she did a quick health exam, which was basically like just making sure that the dog was okay. Yeah. Gave her treats.
Made a bit of a fuss of her.
We tried to get her to pee on a puppy pad. That didn't work. Our girl does not use puppy pads. She's too good for that. Anyway, there was all kinds of accommodations because they know that the pet has likely been on the flight for a while, right? Yeah. And she gave me a piece of paper basically signing off that she had done the health exam. She said, keep that in your hand as you leave in case anybody stops you or wants to see the paperwork. But that was it. And then we walked the dog outside and she
went to pee.
And we were like breathing a sigh of relief and we're like,
now
oh my God,
we'll get the car.
Right. So all of that is the process for in cabin, which is probably the most simple actually, because your pet's with you the whole time and you got eyes on your pet and blah, blah, blah.
And one thing I would say, and it applies to this other one I would think as well, and that is just make sure you know where the pet relief stations are in the particular area or airport that you are travelling from and to, but specifically from.
Because we were in Newark.
We were in Newark, and the one that they had was, if you looked at the photo of it, you think, oh my God, that is fantastic. It had the yellow water hydrant for American dogs. Red. It had like turf grass.
A sink,
quite spiky, a sink, a washing area. There was something in there as well that was more. I'm sure it was more England based, like what would make allow for a dog to think it was in. I can't recall now, but anyway, just a word to the wise: make sure you know where they are.
It's there. Good luck, because our girl was like, I am not having this. So it's okay. She held on, but
she was good.
She was great. She is the most chill traveler ever. We're very lucky. It's me.
No,
when it comes to her,
she's more chilled than you.
That is the stressor.
Yeah.
Okay. Second option here. Your pet does not fit in the cabin.
Right.
So no under the seat for you. The dogs are bigger. The cats, why wouldn't a cat is likely going to fit, right?
Yeah.
But typically, if you have a dog that's bigger than a dog that would fit under the seat,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to do cargo in the same plane as you, which might be fine for some people, and this all has to come down to what you're comfortable with and what options you have, right? And so. The cargo situation is, I think, very similar. I mean, you have to follow the guidelines on each airline site.
Yep.
You have to check them in a different place. You likely say goodbye to them right at the gate.
I think you've got to go to an area, drop them off in their kennel. And
Oh,
then
after you check in?
Yeah, I think maybe before.
Oh,
So they go, you say goodbye, you go and check in,
That's
and then
right.
you find them when you land
Right.
in the other place.
so they're on the plane with you. They're just
Yes.
in the cargo
Yes,
hold.
yes.
And then when you arrive, you likely, I think it's usually an area away from baggage claim. So it might even be a different area on the airport
Right.
like location. So you would grab your bags, all that jazz, and basically do the same process. You got to go get the dog, go through customs,
Have the health exam.
have the health exam, same deal.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to, again, refer you all back to the USDA website, and I will also link it for you here.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the key resources that will help you really get your arms around what process
Yeah. It's
for
possible.
you, right?
And I think the benefit with the cargo, if you're at ease with it, shall we say, not that you prefer it, but at ease with it being the way, is that I'm not sure that there's as big a limit on how many dogs you can transport.
Right.
Now, it may well be that there's only one dog per kennel, but I'm not sure what the stipulation is per airline.
Right.
How many kennel/dog you can take.
At one time, yeah.
So you might have three
Dogs and 2 adults
big,
or something.
right?
Yeah.
But so again, every case is going to be different.
Yeah. I would say those are the top 2 options that most people use,
Yeah,
right? To get their pet from the US to Portugal.
yeah,
Where you may run into trouble is kind of what we had, which is a certain breed that can't go in the cabin because they're too big, and a breed that can't go in the cargo because
Because
they are
precluded for one reason or another.
right. For instance, the Bostons, the snub-nosed dogs, who are, because of their breathing concerns,
Yep.
they won't take on the liability for it.
Correct.
So what do? I mean,
I'll tell
what
you
do
what
you
you
do?
do.
What do you do, babe?
You do one or two things. Number one, you hire a private jet and get a group of your friends or friends to be to fly with you for 50 to 60 grand.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean seriously, it could.
Oh,
it could
with
be
your
up-
friends.
As the whole like.
I'm like, I get your sarcasm, but you're a little bit
But-
going overboard.
I think on average, if you wanted to fly per person with animal, I think each
It's
person is
10
about 8 to 10,000,
Yeah.
depending.
One
on
person, one pet.
one pet.
And this is, again, private jet, basically.
Yeah.
We actually looked into this scarily. We were like, oh my God. I mean, we can't even eat when we get there. So, we'll be broke. But it is an option. Like, for
sure.
instance, K9 jets,
Yeah.
right? You can look at them. We
Others
researched
are
them
about.
as well. There's others as well. And you'll see on some of the forums, like the Facebook groups, where it's like, people are starting to like crowdsource and say, hey, we're trying to put together a private jet in February to go from, Newark to
Peterborough to
Right.
Lisbon or to
wherever. And that way you're trying to find people like-minded or in the same situation who are trying to get their pets over there.
And if
in a
you've got some
different way.
flexibility in terms of timing, it could be the right thing for you.
Right.
It really could.
And money.
Yeah.
I mean, you can achieve anything if you have money. So, whatever. But that is an option, and we joke about it, and I know that people scoff, but it is an option for certain people who are at that point in life. They have the funds to do it. That's how they
Right.
want to get their pet over here. It is
Crack
an option.
on. No.
So that, again, I would say K9Jets.com is probably the first place I would go, and then maybe look at some others. I think that the con to this, and we really kind of wanted to talk about pros and cons of all of this, but like, the con is the money. The con is also, for the private jet situation, is that they're rare. The flights are like, maybe one a month on the track that you're looking for. Like if you're looking for something into Lisbon from the East Coast, it might be once a month or less. So it takes more
flexibility.
Flexibility of the calendar and all that stuff. Not to mention, again, I'll go back to the con of it being about 10 grand, which I remember looking into this and going, this cannot be the way that we have to get her there.
And if it was going to be the way, it was going to be you with the dog on a private jet and me and
you couldn't even, that doesn't even take both of us together
on a different, on a regular scheduled flight.
And
that's fine if that's what it was, but fortunately it wasn't. So private jet is another option, very viable.
But from pictures and reports that I've seen, it's super nice. Hey.
I think the dogs don't even stay in there.
No, they can sit with you in the seat.
Sit on your lap in the seat.
There's no rules.
No, it's like party.
Here's the other one though. There's another one. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to pay $10,000. I don't know. I don't know what the pricing of this one though is.
I think the price. So pet transportation, where
it's like a courier.
Yeah. Or ultimately, the one I read was you would drive to somewhere just outside of Atlanta. You'd drop the dog off with this particular company. You'd say goodbye. You'd then go to get your flight. They would organise the flight with the with your dog, and the next time you would see it would be at the facility wherever they were flying it to.
No, but they're personally accompanied by someone. Aren't you hiring someone?
You're hiring a company to do everything for you. I don't know how personal they are accompanied.
Right.
I think it's a very similar situation to cargo hold, but I think it's more of a
catered
concierge service. It's definitely a concierge service.
Right.
I think when we looked into it originally, I think it was around about $4,000, something like that, and that was sort of into Lisbon from East Coast. There's a lot of just different pet transport companies out there, and I hear they do a fantastic job. I also hear some other stories as well.
Well, I think too, you have to think about it, right? Like the airlines are not pet people, right?
No.
But a pet transportation company,
you would expect them to be.
You would expect them to be very much in tune with a pet owner who is very worried about getting their dog safely across the ocean. So I think that's the pro and con for me, is that the airlines, and I'm not saying that they don't care, I'm just saying that a pet transportation company is probably rooted in, making sure that they are addressing the concerns of a worried pet owner.
Yes.
Right? And doing things that help mitigate those things.
Yeah.
Whereas the airline, they're just trying to get things from A to B, and I don't know. I'm not trying to discourage.
No, it's a different.
Right. It's a different, and that's probably why you're paying more. That's probably why you would benefit from paying more for this service if it really, scares you.
Yeah.
And I want to come back and say, everybody's tolerance for this is different. And so I sit here and I share our experience and what we were willing and not willing to do, or what made us nervous. But at the same time, this might not be worrisome for you at all, and that's okay. I also say that you've got different dogs who travel differently.
Yep.
We are very lucky. Our girl Vera. So I think that'll be an interesting conversation.
It's going to be quite fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah. Excellent.
Thanks,
well,
guys.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you listening, and listen, subscribe, rate us. We are trying to reach as many people of like-minded love of potentially Portugal.
Absolutely.
And moving abroad, and people who are wanting to travel in Portugal. Mark is doing itineraries for people here, and it's been awesome. We've got our fingers in a lot of different things. So
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
See you next time.
Bye.
Listen up, future expats. For more content about our move, the visa process, Portuguese culture and destinations, and tons of support resources for your own decisions and potential move abroad, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Portugal Junkies.
Stay in touch and help us reach more people by subscribing here and following us there.
Cheers, y'all!